Alright, what's up guys? How's it going? So, today I thought I would just remind all of you that yes, everything is coming to a wraps. It's Brother in Arms, it's King of Icefield. And, like everything, you guys probably have noticed that everything is coming to a wrap with the event, with the fantasy party. Next week we got Tundra Trading Station, we've got a couple of other events. So, for those of you out there that are in the middle of Brother in Arms, here are a couple of tips that I think are worth sharing. One thing you can do, and this is one thing that I find a lot of people do not understand when they first come into this game, but don't gather during Brother in Arms. It's universally known across almost every state that I can attack somebody that's gathering, and I won't get punished for it, regardless of who it is. The second thing is, this is another tip regarding Brother in Arms, but if you are going to be going around attacking players, don't solo them if they're near your might. You're going to find yourself losing a lot of troops. And even when you do attack, you might be thinking, well, then what do I attack with? I'm of the opinion that you can kind of approach this in one of two ways. But almost every time, it all comes down to one thing and one thing only. You need 50% of your march to be infantry. Then you can play around with the amount of lancers and marksmen as needed for most fights, especially if you don't know who they are. And so, one of the things that you've got a lot of right now is pretty much, at least at a glance anyway, right? If you're going to be in the middle of Brother in Arms, I would say this, the other thing that a lot of people tend to do is they'll, how do you say, if they don't lone wolf crap and try to go mollywhopping, I've seen 2 or 3 different types of people. You got the lone wolves who just go pick on anything or everything they think they can get away with. You've got the other group of people who are a little bit more coordinated, find a target and then they group and rally. And then you got the third group, and the third group are what I call the chaotic ones, because what they do is they just go and find themselves anybody or everybody that they can attack, anything or everything, and they scout everything, right? And then once they've got a list of people that they can just go off and attack, they just go off their bookmarks and they just hit one after the other. And it almost comes off acting random, but whatever your strategy is, in the middle of Brother in Arms, I can say that there's obviously a lot of things that I've seen a lot of people do right, and a lot of things I've seen people do wrong. I would say in most states, people would say trying to kill off everybody is probably not a good idea, because you kill your state, you're going to have a really bad day, right? But if you're somebody that's defending, what they don't often tell you is, how do you defend your hive? What do you do in the event that someone is going around and attacking? What is your option? If you're a tiny individual, then oftentimes what I would recommend you do is obviously pop an 8-hour, and you get these free, so you can pop as many of these as you can. You get 5 of them, you've probably popped a couple here and there. But that would be the first, countermeasure, is give yourself an 8-hour lapse, and that'll usually protect you. But let's say you're out of these. Now what? Well, the main thing that you can do in a situation, assuming this person is within your rank or realm, the one thing you want to make sure you check is actually what you have on your wall. So you want to go to your city defense here, and you want to verify that you have the right heroes on the wall. Now, how do you know what heroes are right and which ones aren't? Well, for example, having defender troop attack is a big boon to anything, right? So that's obviously anything defender skill-wise is going to be helpful. The other thing, too, is you also have to think in terms of what's going to be most helpful. And what are you going to more than likely have? I'm thinking most of you guys are probably going to have Sergei. So, damage taken down. All I can say is most of what you're going to go after is going to be things that drop the damage your opponent is sending. So that can be anything from, heck, even Ling Shuang with her reduce enemy attack skill would not be the worst possible hero in that slot. Because the idea here is you want to try and reduce the amount of damage that you take. The big thing that I will stress here, though, is that you will often find yourself struggling in two camps. One camp of it is the infantry line, so you're going to need a lot of infantry. So if you get garrisoned or reinforcements, the garrisons can, vary between having a mixed mess of troops, or you could have maybe a fairly like 50% infantry, 50% Lancer mix, or you could even go, 20 30 there on marksman infantry, and I could even see people do like a 50 30 20, for example, where you've infantry, lancers, and marksmen, right? You can do that, and that gives you at least some leeway where you're going to be able to do some damage to the infantry line as they're coming at your base, but then you can also improve the amount of lancers they have. A lot of the things that tend to dip, though, like when someone's getting attacked, is really just their infantry and marksmen, and only then when their infantry line actually like disappears does it then dip into their lancers. So if you're really wanting to help someone like stay alive, you typically want to send a lot of infantry and a lot of marksmen. And then, contrary to what a lot of people would think, it's only when you start to run out of infantry does it then become relevant that you need lancers. But obviously, to do damage against their marksmen, you need to have lancers. So it's kind of this gamble of like which is more important. And oftentimes, if you sent like a mix, you're not really doing anyone any harm there. But I will say that oftentimes getting more infantry is more helpful in the long run whenever you're trying to defend someone. That said, one of the issues that you're often going to find yourself in is, a lot of these players, especially in the older states, are big enough and pretty much statistically better than most free-to-play. So whenever someone comes at you, really you're sitting ducks. Like, there's really not a lot you can do unless you've got someone of comparable might that can help defend you. And in those cases, the best they can do is garrison and thwart maybe a couple of their attacks, if that. And this is why whenever you're in a situation where you're being attacked, really your best option is to shield. It's not really to try and take a fight one-on-one if you don't have to. But, this is hence the kind of the driven systems that we have. Of course, you can always go in here, you can get chief gear, you can go into your war tab and pop your health and debuffs if you need to. But a lot of that stuff, if you want the element of surprise in this game and you really want to trip somebody up, pop your buffs. And then, I would say, like, if there's anything that really makes a huge difference in this game, it's really having the right stats and the right gear, and that's ultimately, one thing that trips a lot of people up is that they don't have good infantry or even really good marksman stats. They work on like one or the other, but not all of them. If you really want to scare somebody, have really good battle research, because somebody with a good battle tree is going to overwhelm most of your beginner players. Will have this problem where they're wondering, why is it this guy beat me? And it all has to come down to the fact that one stat that no one else can actually verifiably know off of you at a glance is your research. Like, that is one thing that ultimately you can have, that it's an investment in thwarting away potential attackers. And it also makes you a more contendable fighter in the end. But that said, of course, a lot of you guys have probably noticed that the island is also going to play a big part into this. And this part of the video is really just going to really kind of stress the fact that, yes, there are buildings in here that you need to work on. Lancer attack, marksman attack, there's defense stats. These are all things that you can also do. Every little thing mounts to something. It's not that you don't want to ignore these things, but these are things that are out there that I thought I'd mention. Of course, getting your fire crystal level is going to help. But if anything, right, of course, you can also use some of the skills that are out there, like tumbling power. The beasts are going to have a huge impact in terms of what you can get just even in the moment of battle, and there's so much to this game in terms of what you can provide, but a lot of it is kind of behind a paywall. And it really doesn't become relevant, and probably not until about 3 months into the game. Where now it's really quite honestly, it's like, when you got people that are like 56 mil, fully maxed out, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, you run against that, you're just dead. There's not really any hope for you. So, needless to say, those are the things that I recommend for Brother in Arms. But hopefully that information was helpful for you. But have a good one, and see you guys next time.